Washington, this is the last time you ignore us. Here in Southwest Louisiana, the oil industry is a major part of your economy, and overall, it greatly impacts the United States. You could even say that it's one of the most important contributors towards the economy of the United States. So here's our problem. The American people and government aren't aware of the immense effect this industry has on our economy and jobs. Washington needs to address this pressing issue. Living in Southwest Louisiana has opened our eyes to the great importance of oil in the American economy. It has been a major part of our region since 1901, when the first oil well was built in Jennings, Louisiana.
Since then, there is currently $70 billion circulating in Southwest Louisiana's oil industry. It further benefits us by providing billions of jobs in the U.S.
In the 1970s, oil production and imports met the level of oil consumption, but now, with higher oil consumption, the government funding into oil production and imports needs to be raised. However, this money could instead be contributed toward social welfare, the environment, or health care.
We found out that the profits of the oil industry actually contribute to other fields, which furthers the quality of living in Southwest Louisiana.
Hence, the American people and government should be aware of and invest more in the advancement of the oil industry and therefore their lives.
This is a mere fraction of Southwest Louisiana's oil industry, which contains around 20 oil refineries that contribute to 18% of refining in the United States. Big oil is so large in America that it had a combined revenue of $349.8 billion in 2014 and 2015. It provides 9.8 billion jobs, which is 5.6% of total U.S. employment. Most governments provide $444 billion a year to the oil industry, while the U.S. provides subsidies ranging from $10 to $52 billion annually.
I would say the government and taxpayers are contributing the right amount because the government's not really contributing anything.
Instead of being subsidized by the federal government, the industry is actually a very large taxpayer. The federal government taxes gasoline at a rate of 18.4 cents a gallon. It also receives billions of dollars each year in non-tax revenues from the industry. Producers must pay the government for the rights of each of their leases. They've got to pay the annual rents to hang on to those leases. They pay the royalties on any production that ultimately results from them. So in terms of what is paid out, according to one estimate, the oil and gas industry's total payments to the government amounted to $86 million per day in 2010.
Although America's oil industry has usually been very successful, it can go down and currently has low profit margins of 8 to 10%.
This graph shows the oil industry's revenue from 2010 to 2015.
The drop in 2015 from $220 billion to $129 billion indicates that we can't entirely depend on oil. The government could invest in healthcare, education, road construction, or the environment instead.
And there is an educational portion of it that we do, from the tax dollars that we do collect, not only just from the oil and gas industry, but other industries just as well, goes back into our education system. And it's critical that we do keep that very healthy. I think the oil and gas industry, as well as other industries, recognize that the health of an education system in the state of Louisiana is extremely important to them as far as the employment from their side just as well.
Not only does oil power 100% of transportation, but we also use it in our daily lives for things such as clothes, phones, and pillows.
In Southwest Louisiana, you have two kind of industries. You have refineries and you have petrochemical industry. And the petrochemical industry, a lot of times, different plastics, different things that they make, where the refineries refine gasoline, stuff like that.
Through more research and interviews, we found out that the U.S. government plays a small but overwhelmingly significant role in the success of the oil industry.
There's different pockets of money. You've got federal money, you've got state money, and you've got local money. I think it's being spent wisely.
The oil industry enhances economic growth and greatly benefits the people of the United States. We began this exploration of the economic aspects of the oil industry by believing that it needed more government funding.
However, we found out through further research and interviews that the oil industry functions mainly on its own profits with little help from government subsidies.
Our message to Washington and the new president is that current government funding of the oil industry should be strictly maintained, and oil should be a priority for generations to come.